Hey there, with Star Wars Shatterpoint finally being out, I wanted to give my first impressions on the system, the things that I like, what I'm not a fan of, and just my general, well, first impression. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. In a lot of ways, this could be looked at as a Star Wars Shatterpoint review, but that doesn't really feel like the right thing to call this because what I have got to try with proxy games before the core set release and now after, in some of the early reveals, is really just a first impression considering what Star Wars Shatterpoint is going to be. There is so much more slated for this that calling this a review just doesn't feel right. Because it would basically be a review of the core set, and 95% of the player base is probably going to be adding in pieces from other expansions. So, with that said, let's dive in. Star Wars Shatterpoint is a skirmish-level miniatures game that offers beautiful sculpts inspired by the animation style that can be found in Rebels and the Clone Wars animated series, which is one of the first things I love about this game. These sculpts are gorgeous. The bigger scale helps, but the overall direction when compared to something like Legion and how it does its heroic scale with bigger faces and stuff, these models just get me excited to paint. Another thing that excites me is how a lot of the systems that AMG have put in place work. I know a lot of people have shown worry about the combat trees, but I have personally found them super easy to follow, and it opens up a lot of potential design space with how a character plays. Another system I'm a big fan of is the Force. I wouldn't have minded a different name since a lot of the non-Force people are able to use it, and it's a bigger picture of the Force and allowing characters to act and react, but like a jetpack doesn't need the Force. Anyways, I'm smiling. Everything about the Force system and how it works within the game is fantastic. I just have a bug to pick with its name. There are three functions of the system that I really like. First, it is a limited resource that you want to spend regularly, but because it has a refresh mechanic, you never feel like you have wasted it. Secondly, as characters get wounded, the cost to use abilities becomes higher, which makes for even more interesting decisions later in the game, while early on you have access to enough force to typically do everything you want and need to. And then finally, the refresh timing is a known point, so you don't have to try and guess when this very important resource is going to be refilled, because you know when your deck is going to run out of cards. Which brings me to one of my first grievances with the game. Random activation order. Like 100% random activations. Sure, there are some built-in tools to help mitigate it, like reserving a card or having access to the Shatterpoint, which acts as a wild. When some of the early activations in a game are so pivotal for getting bodies on the points so you don't end up behind early, it just can really hurt. It doesn't help that you don't know the active objectives until after deployment, so if you guess right, you can already be on up to 2 active points, or you may not end up on any. But if your opponent guesses right, they have significantly less pressure to get the right draws out of the order deck. As well, a series of poor draws I have found can really take you out of one half of the game, as typically you will end up having your 2 squads on different sides of the board to cover the spread of it. So if you really need an activation on one side of the board to try and capture an objective or something of that sort, it can be really frustrating to not be able to respond to half of the board. However, one thing that is almost the exact opposite of this kind of frustration are the Shatterpoint dice, which is kind of weird because usually dice are the randomized quantity, especially with Marvel Crisis Protocol. Shatterpoint dice, though, are just so smooth, and not just to the touch. But with how they are designed, you either have a 3 out of 4 or 2 out of 3 sides that are going to be positive results when you're rolling. So a bad dice roll that ends up with a lot of failures can and will still happen, but it should happen a lot less often than it does in other game systems. The expertise system allows you to still build half successes towards dealing or blocking damage, and it's just a really good feeling. There will still be some insane rolls where you pop off, and then again those ones that are duds, but I think this dice system will help out those averages significantly, and even if they don't, they at least give you the feel that they do, because a majority of the sides of the dice are pushing you toward your successes. And I think this will be very important because of my next critique. This game can be weirdly short. Not in terms of minutes and hours, that will vary from a learning game that could take like 3 to 4 hours to a more expected 90-minute or less, depending on your familiarity with the game, luck, and other factors. I'm more so referring to the number of activations each unit's going to get. On average, it seems like the order deck is getting drawn through about twice a game, sometimes even less so. So removing the Shatterpoint card from this, because who you can activate with it can be very situational, the average character / unit is only getting activated 1 or 2 times. This isn't something I want to call out as a big negative or anything like that, it's just a game design choice, but it's weird that we get a skirmish game with these really cool characters like Vader, Obi-Wan, and Maul, only to see them get to do something twice a game. And depending on when they are drawn, they could have some activations that just aren't that impactful. So really what this comes down to is when you want to have a game where you want to play with these cool characters, only getting 2 activations out of them is weird and can feel bad if one of those activations isn't very impactful. The last thing that I haven't found a great transition for, but still needs to be commended, is the approach toward terrain. Cover has just recently gotten an update that I haven't really got to get reps in with yet, so I can't comment on that. But I really just want to gush about what a fantastic designed ingress points are. Climbing terrain with different elevations and whatnot has always been an awkward thing, with some games even having characters move halfway up a ladder. MCP has a smooth solution, but oftentimes breaks the suspension of disbelief, as Black Widow and Luke Cage are able to scale a 3-story building all in one short move. Ingress points are just such a clean and fantastic solution to this problem that I feel like I needed to mention it again. So the TLDR here is that Shatterpoint has a lot of really cool systems that make gameplay smooth and look cool. So if you're looking for a Star Wars skirmish game, this is not just another Minis game, but has some really cool and innovative takes to make the game also feel fresh. For me, it does still have some drawbacks with the total activation count and how much player agency is taken away with the order deck. But knowing AMG and their desire to keep the games they make a bit more light and casual, narrative focused, it may have been a deliberate choice to make it just kind of force a casual nature on us, I guess. But those are my thoughts on Shatterpoint as of right now. Maybe 6 months down the road or something like that, I'll do something more review-esque in nature as we get more expansions and get a broader grasp of how Shatterpoint is going to function. Here at the end of the video, I want to give my sponsors a shout out. If you're shopping for your mini stuff online, consider using them to support an LGS that is hosting game nights for Shatterpoint, MCP, and just a piece to play for the local players. If you're in the UK, you can shop at Tritex. Use the code TritexGGCB5 at checkout for an extra 5% off, and if you use that on pre-order items like what's coming out, Grievous, I guess, it'll actually end up saving you 25% off of MRSP. And also an even bigger shout out to Tritex, as they are sponsoring a giveaway for a Shatterpoint core box right now. All you need to do is be subscribed to the channel and leave a comment on a Shatterpoint video released from the giveaway announcement last month until the 10th of this month. If you're in the US, head to gamechefs.org and use the code GamersGuild, no spaces, to save an extra 15% off of their already discounted prices, which comes out to a really good bargain on your end. And this will also enter you into a giveaway for a Shatterpoint core box, but only for people living in the US, unfortunately. It doesn't matter what you buy, though, as long as you use the discount code when purchasing. However, I will continue to say, if you're shopping from your own local gaming store, keep supporting them. We all appreciate that and understand. So with that, thank you to the members of the Guild Hall who support this channel and the podcast with your contributions. We would not be where we are today if it was not for that, so thank you guys. And thank you all for watching. Until next time, keep on gaming.